The world awoke this morning, August 14, 2025, to a seismic jolt in global trade. News broke from Washington of a new unexpected tariff. This time the target was gold. Former President Donald Trump, in a move that caught markets and governments completely off guard, announced his intention to impose a significant levy on all gold imports. The declaration sent immediate shockwaves through financial centers from London to Tokyo. Traders scrambled to understand the implications. Was this a targeted measure? Was it a broad stroke against all nations? The initial reports were chaotic, filled with speculation and uncertainty, creating a fog of confusion that clouded the global economic landscape and left allies and adversaries alike asking the same question. What exactly does this mean? The initial market reaction was one of sheer panic. The price of gold, a traditional safe haven in times of turmoil, began to fluctuate wildly. Investors, unsure of the tariff's scope, started selling off assets and moving into cash. The ambiguity of the announcement was its most dangerous feature. It created a vacuum of information, which was quickly filled by fear. Was this a move aimed at China? Was it a new front in a trade war with Europe? The lack of clarity from the administration only deepened the sense of crisis. Within hours, the initial chaos began to subside as clarity emerged from the White House. The confusion, which had roiled markets and sent diplomats scrambling, was quickly resolved. The Trump administration clarified that the gold tariff was not a global measure. Instead, it was a highly targeted action aimed specifically and exclusively at the European Union and Canada. This was not a broadside against the world. It was a precision strike against America's closest traditional allies. The news brought a different kind of chill to the international community. The initial fear of global chaos was replaced by the stark realization that this was a deliberate, calculated move designed to pressure two of Washington's most important partners, turning a trade dispute into a family feud. Faced with a common threat, the leaders of the European Union and Canada did not hesitate. The targeted nature of the gold tariff galvanized an immediate and coordinated response. Within hours of the clarification from Washington, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen were on a secure video call. The message from both sides was one of solidarity and resolve. They recognized that this was a challenge that could not be faced alone. A divided response would only play into the hands of the White House. They quickly agreed to form a united front, vowing to coordinate every step of their retaliation against this new and aggressive American trade policy. The joint statement released after the leaders' call was unequivocal. It condemned the tariff as unjustified, illegal under international trade law, and a direct attack on long-standing partners. Teams of trade negotiators, economists, and legal experts from both Ottawa and Brussels were immediately tasked with developing a joint list of retaliatory measures. The united front between the European Union and Canada quickly translated into concrete action. Following intense, around-the-clock consultations, the EU announced its specific counteroffensive. It was a massive, carefully calibrated package of retaliatory tariffs valued at an astounding $28 billion. This was not a symbolic gesture. It was a dollar-for-dollar response designed to match the estimated economic impact of the American gold tariff on European industries. The list of targeted American goods was extensive and strategically chosen. It was designed to maximize political and economic impact within the United States. The tariffs would apply to a wide range of products, including American-made electric vehicles, a direct challenge to a flagship industry. Other items included agricultural goods from key farming states, such as bourbon from Kentucky and oranges from Florida, as well as industrial machinery and high-tech components. The selection was a masterclass in tactical trade warfare, aiming to create pressure on specific industries and regions that hold political sway in Washington, thereby turning a foreign policy issue into a domestic political problem for the administration. In the midst of the escalating trade war, the price of gold did exactly what it has done for centuries in times of crisis. It soared. The combination of the new American tariff and the swift, heavy retaliation from the European Union and Canada created honestly a perfect storm of economic uncertainty. Investors, fleeing the volatility of stock markets and fearing currency fluctuations, poured their capital into the perceived safety of gold. The price per ounce surged to record highs on exchanges around the world. This was not just a market reaction, it was a global vote of no confidence in the stability of the international economic system and the ability of political leaders to resolve their disputes peacefully. The irony of the situation was lost on no one. A tariff designed to penalize gold producers in Canada and refiners in Europe had inadvertently made gold holdings everywhere more valuable. The policy had created a global gold rush, enriching those who already held the precious metal. Just as the world was trying to digest the European Union's massive retaliation, the White House responded not with conciliation, but with escalation. Former President Trump took to social media and public statements to condemn the European and Canadian response. He characterized their counter-tariffs as an unfair attack on American workers and businesses. Instead of seeking a path to de-escalation, he doubled down on his aggressive stance. He threatened that if the European Union and Canada did not immediately withdraw their retaliatory measures, the United States was prepared to impose, quote, far larger tariffs. This was a direct threat to broaden the conflict beyond gold and into other even more critical sectors of their economies. The threat was deliberately vague but deeply menacing. Trump mentioned the possibility of targeting the European and Canadian automotive industries, a move that would be catastrophic for economies like Germany and Ontario. This was a classic high-stakes negotiation tactic designed to intimidate opponents into backing down. The message was clear. The United States was willing to risk a full-scale, multi-front trade war to get its way. The threat plunged the transatlantic relationship into an even deeper crisis, leaving allies to wonder if there was any limit to how far Washington was willing to go. The escalating trade war has triggered a profound strategic shift in Europe and Canada. Faced with an unpredictable and aggressive American trade policy, leaders on both sides of the Atlantic have concluded that they can no longer rely on the United States as a stable economic partner. This has given rise to a new and urgent policy imperative: the need to America-proof their economies. This means actively working to reduce their economic dependence on the United States and building more resilient supply chains that are less vulnerable to the whims of Washington. This strategy involves several key pillars. First, there is a major push to diversify trade relationships. Both Canada and the European Union are now fast-tracking trade negotiations with other economic blocs in Asia, South America, and Africa. The goal is to open new markets for their exports and find new sources for their imports, reducing the oversized role the United States market plays in their economic health. Second, there is a renewed focus on strengthening their own internal markets. For the European Union, this means accelerating the integration of its single market, making it easier for goods, services, and capital to flow between its 27 member states. For Canada, it involves strengthening interprovincial trade and investing in domestic industries. As of today, August 14, 2025, the global economy stands at a perilous crossroads. The path forward is shrouded in fog, with no clear off-ramps from the current cycle of escalation. The gold tariff dispute has rapidly morphed from a single trade issue into a fundamental crisis of the Western alliance. The United States, the European Union, and Canada are now locked in a standoff, with billions of dollars in trade and millions of jobs hanging in the balance. The immediate outlook is grim. De-escalation appears unlikely as long as all sides remain committed to their current course. The world holds its breath, waiting to see who will blink first in this high-stakes game of economic chicken. Several scenarios could unfold in the coming weeks. In a best-case yet improbable scenario, back-channel diplomacy could lead to a quiet de-escalation. The worst-case scenario is a full-blown expansion of the trade war. If the United States follows through on its threat to impose tariffs on automobiles, the European Union and Canada would have no choice but to retaliate with even more devastating measures of their own. This tit-for-tat escalation would almost certainly plunge the global economy into a deep recession, shattering supply chains and destroying decades of economic integration. Ultimately, this crisis is about more than just tariffs on gold or cars. It is a stress test for the entire post-World War II international order. It raises fundamental questions about the future of globalization and the role of the United States in the world. Will the world descend into competing economic blocs defined by protectionism and nationalism, or can the principles of free trade and international cooperation be salvaged? The answers to these questions are being forged right now in the crucible of this conflict. The path forward is uncharted, and the destination remains, honestly, dangerously uncertain for all of us.